No, I'm not concerned. I mean, the fact of the matter is that when FR20 was announced 3 years ago, the Chief of Defence Staff, as he now is, who was the architect of that report, always said that the first step was to stabilise the reserves and then to build on that stable platform. And that's what's happened, really. We've stabilised the numbers. They're no longer declining, and we will now see them rise.
And how is the reserve and the regular process working thus far? You know, that working together, is it working as you would expect?
I mean, I was with a whole load of commanding officers last night, both regular and reserve. And what you detect when you talk to them is a sense of enthusiasm about the way in which the integrated army can work. It's not the same everywhere. There are some reserve units that don't have regular pairings and partnerships, but then there are a lot of regular units that don't have those as well. But where there are integrated partnerships, the sense you get is that people are working together, recognising that it's the collective capability that you get from both organisations which gives you the chance to maximise the potential of both organisations.
As Commander of Land Forces, you've been responsible for the restructuring of the Army 2020 plans. Within those restructuring, you've been looking at raising the number of reserves that we have within the armed forces. Now, it does seem that those numbers aren't yet rising, despite the fact that we've made thousands of regular soldiers redundant.
Well, I don't think one can ever foretell what's going to happen in the future. I mean, I've always felt that, you know, the clue was in the title. Army 2020 was about the year 2020. And what the Army needs is the opportunity to be able to implement what is a new plan. It's a very different plan to the one which the architects of the original reforms in 1957 conceived. And it's the largest change in a sense since then. And what we need now is the opportunity to be able to see it through and to make all the moving parts come together to deliver what will be something new and refreshing.
Back to restructuring land forces, the units are changing, roles are changing, we're rebasing. All of this unsettles people. What is the message to the men and women and their families going forward?
Well, I think, 2015, so next year will be the high water mark for people's movements. And of course we still have a large presence in Germany. But I think people know what the plan is. People know when they should be moving. One absolutely acknowledges that there will be changes within that plan, but in broad terms we know the direction of travel and who has got to move when. So I think that my message is one of stick with it, it's going to work, and thank you for your perseverance. How
does Land Forces predict future threats? How do you ensure that you're ready to combat those future threats? For example, today it's the Moscow parades. Who'd have thought just this time last year we'd be talking about Ukraine?
No, quite. I mean, it's impossible to predict the future. So on that basis, what you have to make sure you do is to have an army that is tuned to the unexpected. And that generally is about making sure that the people within it are capable of using their imagination, of innovating, and of responding quickly to change. I think it was Professor Sir Michael Howard always said, and I'll paraphrase him, that he's quite sure the British Army is writing and studying really good doctrine at the moment, but he's also absolutely certain it'll be the wrong doctrine when war next breaks out. The trick, though, is how quickly you respond. And I think we learned that through the last 10 years of campaigning in Iraq and Afghanistan, is if you respond quickly and increase your tempo, and your tempo is matched in relation to your opponent, then there's a reasonable chance you might be able to prevail. But it's about being adaptable, and that's the key thing for us, I fear.
I understand that you're involved in reviewing the role of women in combat roles alongside General Wall. What's prompted this?
I'm not sure I'm heading it up. The answer is that the Army is going to examine, on behalf of the Secretary of State, the extent to which we can broaden the roles of women in the Army. As people probably know, some 30% of roles within the Army are currently excluded. This was last reviewed in 2005, and under European legislation there is a requirement to review it again. I think it's too early to suggest which way it will go, but what I'm absolutely certain of is that we as an employer need people to understand that we genuinely value equal opportunities and diversity, and we want to be a thoroughly inclusive employer, because we need that if we're going to secure the talent that we need for the future.
If they are approved to take on frontline roles, how can we protect these service women? Because they're going to be in very difficult situations. They could be under threat of sexual harassment, perhaps bullying.
I mean, we need to demonstrate, as I believe we genuinely are, an organisation that wants to have all sorts of different people working and operating inside it. And that's the important thing here.
Do you think we should have women on the front line?
I think that we need to look at the facts, and we need to look at whether or not it improves our operational effectiveness. And if all of that comes together and the answer is that yes, our operational effectiveness would be improved and certainly not reduced, then the answer is that the facts will speak for themselves.